Hey guys, it's Bella here. We're back for some more Creepypastas, and today we're going to be reading Room Zero. I don't think this one is another very long one, so I'll try to read it as slow as I can, and yeah, let's just get right into it. It's been a while since I've written anything related to Disney Corporation, and I'm sure you can understand why. A lot has been going on since my last post, and I received a lot of questions and concerns from folks who read my first-hand account of Mowgli's Palace, a resort that was built and abandoned by Disney. I want to thank everyone who mirrored my post, and it's been taken down from a few places, mostly corporate sites that were easily leaned on by the larger power. However, for every nuked topic or disappearing blog, it seems like 100 more have popped up. There's something they'll have to face, and there's no turning back for them. None for me either. I'm definitely being followed. For the first month or two, I chalked it up to paranoia. Any casual glance or half smile in my direction set me off, hair standing on the back of my neck and everything. The first one, or rather the first one I was actually able to spot, was a telephone worker miling around my apartment complex. He was middle-aged, doughy, and dressed just as you expect, but something just seemed off about him. I couldn't place it, but I knew this just wasn't my imagination acting up. He was awkward and out of place, not somebody who was comfortable doing his routine job. I followed him around a corner only to lose him there. When I turned back home, there he was, staring directly at me about 10 feet behind me, emotionless and cold. "Exploring?" he asked. That's all he said, and there was an accusing tone to his voice. Tell me, what blue-collar phone jockey does that? I guess that's the worst part. Never feeling safe. Never feeling alone. That, and the occasional Disney merchandise left somewhere for me to find. Little rubber Mickeys in the mailbox, Disney Avengers magazine on my bookshelf. They hide little Mickeys everywhere. 3 circles, 1 big, 2 small, and the silhouette of the famous mouse's head. I started keeping a list of the Mickeys that I found. Coffee cup rings on my coffee table, 1 big, 2 small, colored glass bottles left on the doorstep, viewed from the top down, all red. Graffiti on the wall on my way to work, a huge earth, small sun, and moon in the proper location. They're everywhere. People have emailed me about this as well. If you post anything I have to say, you're going to start finding those son of a bitch outlines. I guarantee it. The best one by far, one that actually made me laugh because of the horror of it all, was a drawing in chalk next to my car. I was taken aback at first, walking through the parking garage, keeping an eye out for people following me. The outline seemed like a perfect match for, well, a murder victim. You're probably familiar with if you read my past post. Written in yellow paint, I'm sure, was a single word: retract. The only good thing that has come out of this all is that I know I'm not the only one who sees something they shouldn't have. I'm not going to give their names because, well, if I have to tell you why, you haven't been paying attention. Researcher goes to Disney parks wherever he can, and although the years, he's not going to have fun enjoying these rides, etc. He's looking for the gaskets. There's been a long tradition, apparently, of the people reporting strange patrons throughout the park. Silent, motionless, staring patrons of every age, shape, and size. Men and women, adults, children, and teens, all wearing Disney-themed gas masks. Way back when, Disney would get a tons of complaints about oddly dressed folks following others around the park. Folks who would often merge into crowds and then disappear. Later on, the gas masks caused folks to draw other conclusions, and reports of possible terrorists and bombers started flowing. All those reports most likely went straight into the trash can. I know I can't find any signs of any such occasion reported by the media, although you should be aware of the fact that Disney can pretty much control its press like no other. Researcher goes to park and talks to a few people and tries not to draw any attention to himself. He'll ask just 3 or 4 families if they've seen his friend who's wearing a funny mask. He has yet to see the gasket for himself, though on one occasion a jug pointed towards the frontier town. As he raced through the crowd, he heard a single voice cry out, "Mommy, I want the goofy air mask too!" A fellow I'll call lifeguard who worked at Disney Water Park from 2001 to 2003. He stood at the top of a huge water slide and made sure none of the kids got too rowdy. He passed the kids through one at a time, telling them over and over again to be safe, keep their arms in, and so on. On a day he tells this fat kid goes down the tube and doesn't come out the other end. He's sent to or 3 kids after, and the whole thing moves at a steady clip. So naturally you expect that if the fatty got stuck, the kids followed him were stuck too. Not so. Only the big kid disappears. Everyone else comes out the other end, cheering and splashing like nothing's wrong. Lifeguard shuts down the slide, much to the aggravation of kids waiting. But before you can go through any of Disney's strict procedures, splash! The fatty finally comes out. Staff members pulled the kid out of the water, and he sank like a stone when he hit. His skin was blue and his eyes wide. All he would say was, "No face, kid," and stop squeezing. The kid was okay, in case you're wondering. He got carted right off to the medical center, and when the lifeguard was told to open the slide back up, he made a big stink about how it clearly wasn't safe. Despite his complaints, he was threatened with firing and begrudgingly opened the slide again. From this point on, he kept a closer eye on the kids. Every so often they come out in wrong order, but never as stunned as the fat kid, but always with a vague look of concern, a dreamy half-stupor that seemed as if they were trying to figure out what was reality. They take on some water and choke a bit, and they never come back to the ride again. I read his emails written with the same sort of unease you might be feeling right now. I wanted to share his own story, but in the end he didn't want to expose himself that way. Can't say I blame him. Snow White, which wasn't the actual role she played, but was a character in the park. She had a nice little tidbit for me. You know what happens when a costume employee drops dead in the suit? Like, 1 second he's taking a picture with little Jimmy, and next he has a fatal stroke. A second costume mascot in this area has sit with a corpse on a curb or a bench, waited for a designated dry cleaner to arrive and cart the body in a discreet manner. All the while, patrons have no idea that they're sitting with a dead body for photo ops. Feel free to check out your photo album at this point. There's a bad but another fellow janitor went completely off the creepy charts. Disney World, and probably others. Sorry. It's built with a series of underground tunnels just below your feet. 3 stories worth. Anything and everything you can imagine is down there, for uses of the employees. They're called utility corridors. Basically, that's the reason you don't see characters out of place or janitors wandering through the park. They pop in and out of hidden doors and travel a concealed town you're walking on. Janitor told me something that might be common knowledge, but nonetheless was news to me. Walt Disney had several apartments built into his parks, and there's one above Cinderella's castle. There's one in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, and they're all over the place. More than that, there are nightclubs, movie theater, bowling alley, and much more. All behind doors built right into the whimsical facade you pass by without a second clue. Club 22 is such a hidden area. If you have the cash to join the expensive club, you don't have access to it and much more. Club 22 is a place where anything goes. Disney Co. and calls these places dark zones. Spots where sneaky, clean visage of Mickey Mouse gives away to drinking, drugs, and yes, sex. Conversely to the rest of the park is the bright zone, with a few gray zone utilidors between. As far as janitor said, it wasn't always that way. It was more of a slow decline than gradual relaxation of social norms within the elite group. And the reason he knows all this? You may have already guessed. He had cleaned it. After a lengthy background check and non-disclosure form, janitor moved up from the park attendant to one of the Dark Zone's cleaning crew. Now, before you get some satanic human sacrifice vision in your head, janitor saw nothing of the sort. Lots of empty alcohol bottles? Yes. Used condoms scattered like deflated New Year's balloons? Oh, yeah. He cleaned up his fair share of blood, piss, and vomit, but it was all down the unrestricted behavior of patrons of the opposite of any sort of cult behavior. At least that's how he sees it in retrospect. All this trash and profane shit went into the furnace and mingled with all the smoke and quaint cottage's chimney. If you've been to Disney World, then you breathe the ultra-condensed sin. Backing up this information was Hammer. Hammer mailed me the old-fashioned way through I don't know how he got my home address. He sent me photocopies of work papers providing his employment with the instructions to burn them all when I was convinced, which I gladly did. Hammer worked around Disney World Park doing demolition and construction. At one point, he approached a superior regarding some strange construction plans, and there was a wide rectangular area marked off in the blueprints about the size of a supermarket. The area was left unnamed and only born to the world's do not dig. Not only was the superior in the dark, but he was super fucking purposely in the dark. He didn't want to talk about it and didn't want to know about it and ended the conversation with the spaces intentionally left blank. Hammer didn't get it. This area seemed like a waste of space and there was definitely conflicting with the work his team had been given. He started poking around the area in his off time, finding only dialect steel door and a great span of concrete just beyond. It was a supermarket's worth of blank gray floor. Soon after, Hammer started picking gaskets out of the crowd. Unlike all other reports, the people and the things would stand in the full view of the guy. They clustered together in a distance, or they would just be pressed against a wall when he turned a corner. He said they moved weird, like they were weak or injured, like a deer that has been run down by a hunter and can't flee anymore. The gas masks and the Disney characters' faces with filters jammed in, he noted that they seemed wet on the inside, like condensation on a car window. Tiny beads of water glimmered behind the glass, making it impossible for them to actually see. Probing further, Hammer started asking questions of anyone and everyone who had been working in the park for a decade or more. He hit his dead ends throughout until he was directed to Ida, an elderly woman who worked in the restaurant on Main Street. She's been there since way back, and though nobody had the balls to ask directly, everyone knew she had plenty of terrible stories to tell. Hammer asked about the empty space and about the gas mask customers, and at first he thought he would receive some non-answers he'd gotten so far. She was quiet, eerily quiet. "Room 0, she croaked, a single shaking hand placed to her cheek as if she were a little girl fearing a father's punishment. She didn't meet the man's gaze for the entire conversation. Room 0, as it turned out, was yet again another room just like the apartments in Club 22. However, its sheer size and spot deep beneath the park set it apart from any fun, dark zones. It was a bomb shelter. Room 0 was built to withstand a massive attack, be it constructed by foreign or domestic enemies. Room 0 was to be stocked with enough rations to feed the entire park's average number of patrons at any given moment, and housed a smaller yet lavish panic room of sorts for Disney higher-ups. During World War II, official Disney gas masks were actually produced for children to wear in the event of attack. The idea is that they would be less scary for kids if Mickey's face was emblazoned on the wartime safety device. Yeah, I know there's obviously problems with that, but during the Cold War scare of the 60s, when Disney World was constructed, Room 0 was stocked with similar masks as well. Whether they care about the fears of children or just callous branding, the thing found their way down there. What's more is some genius decided the kids would then be frightened by the gas masks their parents wore. So all the masks, adult and children, were made to comply to this insane standard. Ida describes it as treating a wound with lemon juice. None of this explained what Hammer had been seeing, though. Not only the seemingly supernatural appears, but the emptied out the room as well. "I've been in there," he explained. "There's nothing but a cement floor and 4 walls." "No." Ida shook her head and covering her mouth, stifling a sob. "You've been on top of it." Someone or something sounded the alarm one day when the park was at full capacity. The warning was clear, and it was a supposed air attack. Security ushered everyone down into the tremendous shelter. There, they were ordered to put on their masks and hunker down for the duration of the assault. Everything was quiet for about 30 minutes, saving the crying children and frightened whispers. No one wanted to die, and so they were thankful for this strange measure of safety. Then the first scream rang out. "Hey! Quit pinching!" Waves of shrieks and yells rippled through the crowd from one wall to the other, back and forth. "Who's running around? Settle down!" someone hollered. "Who's laughing? This isn't funny! Ow! Who stepped on my foot?" Despite security guards urging to calm down and keep their cool, the crowds became more and more agitated until finally, in nearly an hour of madness, the lights flickered, then died. What followed could be described as utter chaos. In the dark, only the wails of the young and anguished cries of the adults could be heard in the massive, swelling din that bloodied the ears of all within the black echo chamber. A group of staff members that was like few patrons made it out of the door, ready to face the war above rather than the insanity below. What they found, of course, was a desolate yet untouched theme park. The music continued to play and echoing through the silent storybook towns. Upon returning to Room Zero, there was only a few that stood at the top of the steel staircase that led down into the pitch blackness. Heard no sign of perverse fray, and there was only silence. Ida herself descended the staircase despite begging of those she left above. She reached the reinforced doors, herself now awash in the darkness and hearing only a buzzing in her ears. A single voice came out in the darkness. The echo made it impossible to tell whether the mocking, raspy voice was back to the bomb shelter or was right in her face. "Shut the door, dear, you're letting the cold out." Gripped by terror, she did just that. Within days, the entire thing, shelter, staircase, all of it, was covered with feet upon feet of cement. Air systems and generators above the ceiling were removed, creating a large empty space. "They're all still down there," Ida told Hammer. "Down there with whoever that was." You might notice I've used Ida's name. Unfortunately, she passed away soon after telling her story. Accidental fall, supposedly, after getting out of her bed to turn on a light. Such a company devotee, the paper reported, that her entire bedroom was covered with Mickey Mouse silhouettes. This was a part of the abandoned Disney series. I don't think that was part of it, but oh well. Bro, this is why I never trust Disneyland or Disney World or anything like that, because shit like this exists. Like the fact that there's like dead bones and ashes in every single ride, and the fact that, you know, most of the fucking mascots are child molesters, like, I just can't. I can't. I'm so glad. Like, I'm not one of those people that, like, would ever want to pray to go to Disneyland or Disney World, because fuck that. But yeah, let me know what you think down below, and that's basically it. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you're new to my channel, be sure to subscribe and give it a thumbs up, and hit the bell so you know if I videos, which is daily. Love you guys, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.